What started as a routine celebrity interview quickly spiraled into a verbal firefight that no one in the studio or watching at home was prepared for. Prince Harry, expecting another polished conversation about charity work and royal evolution, walked into what would become one of the most explosive confrontations in late-night television history. His opponent, not a journalist or politician, but Bill Maher, the comedian whose tongue cuts deeper than most reporters ever dare. What unfolded wasn't just a disagreement. It was a full-blown philosophical battle, pain versus provocation, legacy vs independence, and when the dust settled, one man walked off the set in fury, and the other was left staring into a camera, unsure of what had just happened. The lights were hot, the applause thunderous, and the stage was dressed for charm. Prince Harry stepped out like royalty reborn, tailored, confident, flashing the kind of smile that had once melted press across continents. Bill Maher stood to greet him, ever the clever host, flashing a grin that was just a little too sharp. To be purely friendly, they shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, and settled into their roles. But behind the polite gestures was something colder. Maher's eyes glinted with mischief. He wasn't planning to play it safe. And Harry? He looked relaxed, but something in his shoulders betrayed the tension coiled underneath. What no one realized was that this wasn't going to be a talk show. It was about to become a trial. The first blow came wrapped in a joke. "Welcome to America, the land where we overthrow monarchies," Maher said, earning a ripple of laughter. Harry smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He replied, calm and rehearsed, "I'm not your typical royal. I'm living the American dream now," but Maher pounced. "Sure," he said, leaning back, "but let's talk about the American nightmare you've created with your family drama, the books, the Netflix specials. You've turned real people into real headlines." The studio grew quiet. Harry's jaw tightened. "We're just telling our story," he said. Maher didn't blink. "Your truth," he echoed with air quotes. "But there's not your truth and my truth. There's just the truth. And the truth is, you've been cashing in on your family's trauma." The warmth in the room was gone. Now it was war. Harry's tone shifted. Gone was the charm, in its place, a quiet edge. "With all due respect," he began, "you don't understand the depth of what we faced. The racism, the press attacks, the silence from within." Maher cut in. "Oh, come on, the racism card?" He raised his voice. "You married into a centuries-old monarchy. Did you think they'd just bend overnight?" The tension rose like static in the air. Then Harry dropped a bomb. "My wife was suicidal, Bill. She wanted to end her life. And the institution told us it would be bad for their image." A gasp swept through the studio. For a moment, Maher paused. His tone softened. "I'm sorry for that. I really am." But then another jab. "But let's be real, Harry, you've turned that pain into a brand." The crowd didn't know where to look. A revelation had just become a weapon. That's when Harry snapped. His fists clenched, his back straightened, and his voice dropped into something dangerous. "You think this is about money?" he growled. "You think I left my family, my country, my duty for a paycheck?" Maher didn't flinch. "I think you've been manipulated by people who saw dollar signs," he said. "I think you're being used to tear down something that lasted 1,000 years. That was it." Harry stood, his chair scraped violently behind him. "Don't you dare bring my wife into this," he shouted. "You don't know her. You don't know us." But Maher stayed seated, voice rising. "I know what I see. A man who had purpose and threw it away to play the victim." It wasn't just a debate anymore. This was raw. This was personal. And then Maher crossed the line. "You want to talk about mothers?" he asked. "Diana stayed and fought. She didn't run to California and start a podcast." Harry froze. His eyes darkened. His voice trembled. "Don't you dare speak about my mother," he said, barely above a whisper. "She would have understood why we had to leave. She would have supported us." Maher didn't stop. "Diana worked inside the system. You abandoned it." That moment, those words cut deeper than anything else. Harry's anger wasn't just visible, it was seething. The man who'd once walked behind his mother's coffin as the world watched now stood on the edge of breaking. And everyone in the room could feel it. Then came the final spark. Maher mentioned William. "Your brother's doing the job you walked away from," he said. "He's preparing to be king. You're preparing your next Netflix pitch." Harry stepped closer, eyes burning. "Don't you talk about my brother. You don't know anything about our dynamic." But Maher pressed on. "I know he stayed. I know he took on the responsibility. You chose a camera crew." Harry's voice dropped low and lethal. "You sit here cracking jokes about things you'll never understand." But Maher didn't back down. "I understand performance, and I know when someone's using pain as a script." For a moment, Harry seemed to deflate. He whispered, "Every day, I wake up knowing I gave up my family to protect my wife and kids. I lost my father, my brother, my past, so they could have a future." Maher nodded, but the challenge remained. "But you can't claim to want peace while firing missiles every few months." Harry snapped back. "That's not what I'm doing." But his voice cracked. For the first time, he looked tired, and the audience saw it. A man trapped between memory and identity. Between who he was and who he's trying to be. Maher turned philosophical. "You had a platform, Harry, one most people dream of. And you used it to talk about yourself." Harry fired back. "I talk about the people who can't, the ones told to stay quiet, to suffer in silence." Maher wasn't convinced. "And you could have done that inside the palace. You chose the stage, not the struggle." Harry's composure cracked again. "I begged them to change, to modernize, but they chose image over life." The silence was painful. Some in the audience began shifting in their seats. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was a breakdown in real time. Harry looked at Maher, eyes red, breath short. "You've judged my wife, my choices, my pain, but you don't get to rewrite history to make me the villain." He began unhooking his mic. "I'm done explaining myself to people who were never listening." Maher tried to stop him. "Wait, we can—" "No," Harry said, cutting him off. "You've had your confrontation. Enjoy your ratings." And then he dropped the mic, literally walked off the stage. Past the cameras, past the crew, out the studio doors, without looking back. The room was dead silent. Maher adjusted his jacket, eyes still fixed on the door where Prince Harry had vanished. "Well," he muttered, "guess we're going to commercial early tonight." But even the cameras seemed reluctant to stop rolling. Because this wasn't just another episode, it was something raw. A moment where one man's lifelong pain collided with another's brutal honesty. Some would say Harry was brave, others would say he cracked under pressure. But one thing was clear: no one would forget this night. Not the audience. Not Maher, and certainly not the man who walked offstage carrying the weight of a kingdom he couldn't save and a family he may never get back.